Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tie. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, Season 5, Episode 24. My name is Pawel the Cat, and I've got my beautiful co-host.
Hey, it's Evan Rev Reynolds back at you with another night of Hockey Talk with two guys, Pawel the Cat and Evan Rev. You can catch me at Rev and Ev on X, and you can catch my partner in crime here at Hockey_2. What you been up to, Pawel?
Oh, just keeping it real, enjoying a lot of hockey throughout the weekend, and whenever I can, just hanging out with the family. How about you, Evan?
Well, I'm basically, trying to keep caught up on everything. It feels like right now is almost playoff run, like in the NHL. So I have to admit, so I apologize to all you that like to follow some of the information. We have given you a ton of information around some of the junior leagues, and we talked a lot about that. But right now, tonight's show is probably going to have a lot of NHL focus with maybe a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit around my Revs Top 15, going back to a couple players and talking about some updates. We might have some rants, but definitely a lot around trade rumors, because we only got about a week left here, and we're in for a run of our lives. We already got updates tonight.
Yeah, and we've got Dustin tuning in. Welcome, Dustin. He's saying, calling
Hey,
it
bud.
now, the Red Wings are peaking at the right time. They are not a team anyone wants to see in a 7-game series. It's true. I was having a discussion on Twitter/X, where you can follow Evan at Revenev or myself at Hockey_2 about the Red Wings. Evan, let's get your initial thoughts on the Red Wings. Do you want any team in the East, in the Atlantic, facing off against the Red Wings? Dylan Larkin, do you want that?
Yeah. Okay, well, first of all, hey, Dustin, cheers, man, to the Red Wings. You got to give it up to Stevie Y. A lot of people actually debated on this team being able to even make a push for a wild card playoff. Now they're doing their very best, and I do not see them selling. I see them doing nothing but building to make this a playoff run. They want to gain some experience because they got a lot of the players already in place. So who are some potential people who could fall under this? Who could be a potential first-round running mate? Could it be Boston?
Boston seems more like most likely. I know that
Boston, New York,
Florida, and Boston for Toronto. Tampa Bay is in there fighting for a wild card spot, so I don't know. Potentially New York Rangers, if they make it first. They're still first in the Metro, so they could potentially face them, or Carolina.
So depending on where things are going to fall, so I'm going to guess, my guess is Boston, or because they're probably going to be an 8th if they get into the playoffs. That's my call. If they get in, so they're looking at Boston or the Rangers. I think they are perfect for the Rangers. Actually, they would be the arch enemy of the Rangers, because I think that they could do a lot. But if not, I don't see them being able to go far with Boston. Boston plays a game. I don't think that their offense is going to be able to break through. I know Boston has been struggling. And by the way, I'd like to apologize tonight. We had planned from the Black and Gold podcast, Allred of the Boston Bruins. He was going to be here tonight. We mixed up on our schedules. I didn't give him a reminder, and he double booked, so he had something else going on. We're going to plan him on another show. So, guys that like Kyle Edwards, if you catch us late, hey, man, sorry, we don't got your Boston boy on tonight, but we will get your Boston boy on at some time. But, yeah, I think Boston's all wrong. But you got to think, hey, if Detroit makes it, you're talking about original 6 first-round playoff, probably if it's the Rangers or Boston.
100%. And Daniel says, yo, Maurice is saying, evening, guys. And Dustin is responding that he believes the Red Wings are the 6th seed right now and only 3 points out of the 5th card. And Zylstra is indicating that the Wings could beat the Bruins twice. I think the problem is that the Wings are deeper down the middle. The one thing that Boston has an edge over is goaltending, I would say. Yeah. But let's be honest, Evan, Alex Lyon now is saving another team and trying to help them get into the playoffs like he did last year for the Florida Panthers, if you recall. But is he strong enough to compete? Because we remember that series last year where Bobrovsky was brought in and he took him all the way to the final and he really played well. So it'd be interesting to see. Okay. Florida is going to be a very tough out, one of the harder teams to beat. And I could see them going far again in the playoffs, because they play that kind of nitty-gritty physical game. Now, I do want to get your thoughts because this did happen. Go ahead.
Before we do that, can I come back to Red Wings? I do want to mention something. So there is some talk that's gone around. They have inquired about Jake Getzel as well. Now, the problem is they're not going to be able to sign him likely because he's going to want a 7 or an 8-year contract. Depending if it's if they trade for him and they can keep him, it'd be a 7 or 8 year. I'm going to assume an 8-year contract, and Getzel's going to be getting a good dime. So the chances are lower, but I wouldn't doubt Stevie Y being able to bring in someone like Jake Getzel. Okay, go for it.
And it's interesting because he's injured right now. So you wonder with the trade deadline looming by next Friday, and we'll try to keep as many updates as we can. You can check out our website at twoguysinhockeytalk.com. Go check it out. We've got all the latest articles and everything. We are on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter /X. Give us a follow there. We appreciate it. Thank you for spending the evening with us. We always enjoy having you guys here sharing things. But Gensel needs to get healthy. And the Penguins, I wanted to talk to you about that because for some reason they are struggling, Evan, and I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. And I know that you love the Penguins, but your thoughts on what's been happening with that team and the power play being so bad as it is. And hey, Kyle, great to hear from you.
Hey, Kyle, we just mentioned earlier, Mark Allred is not going to be with us. So if, Kyle, you're joining in from the Black and Gold podcast, unfortunately, we got our wires crossed on the scheduling time. So you'll have to check out your Boston info a little bit later. And we touched base a little bit on them in a series, possibly against the Red Wings in the first round. So what was the question? No. Penguins. I'm just joking. We are. This is really sad for Crosby because he's super ultra competitive. But this is what I think the problem is. Dubas has not supported them. You got Carlson, you got Letang, you got Tristan Jarry, you got Malkin, you've had Getzel, and you have Crosby, who's still supernova. He's still a superstar. And you got nothing else really. You got a couple complimentary, maybe fourth line guys.
You brought in Riley Smith, Stanley Cup champion from last year. You brought in Ryan Graves.
Riley. Yeah, you're dealing with Riley.
You have Ryan Russ there, top guy. Yeah. Do you think a coaching change could happen?
Well, this is the team, and I don't mind saying it now. This is the team I talked about probably just before Christmas that you're looking at a coaching change coming, and this is one of the places that I did talk about when I talked and speculated where could Jay Woodcroft end, and I wonder, could that be a potential match? Now, that's purely speculation. That's just trying to read between the lines of the different information that I've seen out there and just discussions and talk and match. But maybe they make that wild card if they make a push. They got veterans, but unfortunately, I don't think you're going to go more than a game in the playoffs. They're going to be able to get anywhere this season. It's just one of those things. Early on, I thought, no different than Pawel, you picking the Ottawa Senators to make the playoffs, I guess, right? We all,
and they've really struggled.
Exactly. What we'll talk about. Maybe let's move and shuffle over there. And let's talk about the Ottawa Senators. Give me your take on what the heck is happening in Ottawaville.
They've been playing a little bit better as of late, but the problem is that, I mean, now you're just playing for essentially for a position next season, because playoffs are pretty much out of reach. Mathematically, they're kind of done. Unless they go on a wild run, pretty much they're done. Their hopes are lost. I got to be honest, Korpisalo has not turned out this year what he should have been. He's turning into potentially Campbell in Edmonton, where he's letting in a lot of goals. Defense isn't helping him out. Jacob Churcum is back in trade rumors. I'm sure he hates that noise. Steve Staios came in. There was some noise about ownership. What does that look like? New GM with Pierre Dorian out. They handed out all those contracts. What do you do now? I know they're looking for a veteran presence, which they have, like a Claude Giroux. But maybe they look at someone like a Chris Tanev, who potentially could come in from Calgary, because Calgary's looking to potentially to trade him. But Ottawa, and I mean, Jacques Martin was brought in just to kind of stabilize things. He's doing what he can. He's called out the team a few times. Brady Tkachuk has really benefited from that coaching change, but I really think that other players need to get a little bit better. Ridley Gregg, he's been fun to watch, but after that slap shot and, debacle with Morgan Riley, he hasn't really lived up to what he has. He could still be a good potential player. A lot of these players aren't playing to their potential. That's kind of what I see in Ottawa, and I think that's the thing. The other thing is like Tarasenko's on the block, what do you do there? On the back, does Thomas Chabot stay? Do you keep him, right? I know you signed him to long-term. Do you trade one of your core guys? Because it clearly is not working, but Ottawa has a lot of questions to answer, and definitely in the offseason, they're going to have a lot of big changes, because this can't continue, and they, I think, want to be back in the playoff hunt next year.
Interesting.
Right? So, and Zylstra says Wings Bruins split their series 2-2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the timing of the Bruins' losses there, though. They were kind of on a time when they weren't. That was on their downside when the Wings actually got the win. So it just seemed that they weren't in their winning mode. It seems like the Bruins definitely work with momentum. It's kind of like getting that locomotive going. Is kind of what. But yeah, I hear you, Zill, and I can see why you think that it's possible around that one. So can I mention?
Chris is asking. So before you get to that, Chris is asking: should Vegas buy or sell at the deadline? Well, they have the cap space with Eichel out and Stone out now. Eichel has been practicing with the team, I believe, in a red jersey, which is non-contact. So he's getting better. And I know people were complaining about cap circumvention and ... But these guys go through doctors, rigorous doctors that report to the NHL. So they're not setting this up. This isn't some conspiracy theory, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to buy. And I wouldn't be surprised if they took a run at somebody big like a Gensel. I mean, he's a big name, but they could potentially make it work.
Do you want a name? Do you want a name I can see them potentially trying to make a trade for? So we're going to tie it in just a moment, but consider a player that wants to go to America, play in an American city. I know Boston keeps being tied to it, but look behind me. There's one player. So we'll talk about a player that just went to Dallas. That's Chris Tanev tonight. So he just went to Dallas. By the way, for nothing. We're going to come back to that. But what about Noah Hannafin? Don't put nothing by McCrimmon, man. This guy knows how to wheel and deal. He did it. So Leah Hextall talked to us a couple seasons ago about her experience in working with him. Daryl Wolski out of Brandon, player agent for 2012 hockey. He shared about the McCrimmon, and that guy knows how to move. He didn't just own his team. He was president. He was GM. He moved around. He knows how to do it. That's why they brought him in Vegas, and they've been a contender ever since day one. Outside of one season, they just took a little bit of a drop. They had a lot of injuries. So I can see if they could potentially get Noah Hannafin and then find a way to move that around. So that as long as they get him in for the summer, they'll take a loss. They'll lose draft picks. They'll give up a player who they paid big money for and gave up good assets to move him along. They don't have a problem doing it. Players still go there knowing that. And I'll tell you why. They're not worried about being moved. If you're worried about comfort, you're not heading to Vegas. You're going to Vegas because you want to be on a winning team. And I'm telling you, Vegas will do everything they can. So don't count Noah Hannafin out from going to Vegas and or another big player. even someone like Jake Getzel, consider they could take a playoff run with him. They're going to have the cap space between Eichel and Stone's money. It's going to work, and they don't have to
Eichel could
worry
be
about
back
the playoff.
before that. Eichel will be back before that. It's Stone. Now, Zilcher says about your Calgary comment.
But hang on. Let me correct that, though. He'll be back, but they have cap relief from the time off, though, being on LTIR. So you still have a cap space that you're able to use of Eichel's from part of the season.
No, you don't. How does that work? I thought it was as soon as a player is back, he goes back on the cap. You don't have LTIR if he's back playing.
You get, that's why when a player gets sent down and they're on when they get sent down and when they go on LTR, when you put them on LTIR and they're on long-term injured, you accumulate a certain percentage, but it can only be used in a certain way at a certain time. So that's something actually we can get into that maybe more specifically. Let's pull up the rules. Yeah, let's do that.
Is only getting what they kind of want for one D-man, the other they won't get traded or accept that way. And she's saying she's sitting half an hour south of Trinity American. So hope you're having a safe journey there, Zilstra. All right, get into this. So I want to know what is this cap thing that, like, I thought it was if you have LTIR until the postseason, and then as soon as the postseason, it doesn't apply. But if a person is out, you have that, but as soon as he comes back, he is an active roster player because you make him an active roster player. So that money that he's bringing in, that 11 million, he's coming into play. So you don't have that cap relief just because he was out for a month.
When they go off, let me pull it up here while we're doing it. Keep talking here.
So there's that. I mean, really, what they need to figure out is if they're going to go for it. They've been struggling as of late. They did beat Toronto, so they had a good game. But, of course, they got spanked by Toronto a week ago. So, of course, it's payback. Vegas is an interesting one because no one's really talking about them repeating, but you can do something if you put it in. And Zilstra says you only have so much room on LTIR. It's true. Yeah, there is a limit for how much you can put on there, right? Because it's also how many players are on your roster, on your payroll. So that's coming in, as well as this is insurance money because you're playing it out. So that's why it makes no sense to me that if he's off for a month, you have that, you have that month of money. But as soon as he's ready to come back and it's before the playoffs, you got to bring it back on the roster.
When a player is on an LTIR, they can exceed the salary cap while they're on, despite the common misconception. You're right. It does not remove a cap hit from a team's overall cap hit. It just potentially allows the team to exceed. So what they can do is they can move players. So when you pull someone up, you move them down. So if they are able to get Getzel, hypothetically, so there's 2 points to this, right? Knowing you get Getzel, you can exceed the salary cap because he is not expected even for another 4 weeks after the trade deadline. So depending what his hit is going to be for the last. Yes, but at that point, depending, because they already got Mark Stone off, they have not replaced Mark Stone, and Mark Stone is likely not coming back till playoff time. And even if they do, there's another ways that they can move some contracts out or send them down. So, and when you're talking at the end of the season, the cap hit for said player. So if a said player is 5 million and you're talking at the trade deadline, it's probably 2.2, 2.3. And then if you're talking the last 10 games, you're probably talking about 0.8. And so you could drop a player down. Maybe that was a $3 million player and drop him down into your and send him through waivers. And that will clear up space to be able to get in on those last days. So that's what it is. So, yes, you are correct. You don't accumulate it in the center of it. If they did
I was so confused as to what you were talking about. You clearly know nothing about it.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Yeah. Well, clearly know nothing. You're the guy that picked the Ottawa Senators to make the playoffs, dude.
You picked Pittsburgh, and that's not looking any better. So
I picked Pittsburgh, who's like 8 points out. You picked Ottawa, who is going to be like in it for Macklin Celebrini in the draft.
I'd have to go see my standings because I don't know if this is what I said is true. I don't know, but I'll go take a look. I don't know if I picked them to be.
Oh, no, you picked them for the playoffs. You said they're going to have a good chance come year end. Okay, let's talk about behind us today.
Okay.
Go look behind me here. Let's talk about Calgary. So Calgary's deal, Tanev goes out for a second, a third round conditional, and a player and I believe, is it a 4th or a 5th round? I don't have it handy here in front of me. If someone
For
already
who?
has seen it here tonight. For Brandon Tanev to Dallas, they give up literally almost nothing. What's Chris say?
Brandon Tanev or Chris Tanev? And Christopher saying, sounds like other sports need to hire hockey guys to work on their cap because the NHL cap seems way more complicated than other sports.
Absolutely,
it
Chris.
is a kerfuffle, as one would say. It could definitely be something. And Zelstra saying, come end of season, Oilers will learn that games beginning at the season are just as important as the end of the season. It's true. Go ahead. You were saying about Brandon Tanev going to Dallas?
Yeah,
I thought Brandon Tanev is in
Chris. Okay.
You're mixing up
Yeah,
your
I love
talents,
your,
brother.
I love your play. I love your play on words. How you specifically got to pull that out, as opposed
Well, I'm
to just so you know. I think that I'm gonna have to start really ranting on you every time you make a little error. Half the time we have guests on, and you say so many things that are so screwed up, and I barely say anything.
I don't think our guests have never complained about anything.
No, our guests don't complain. You complain anytime I make a little error because you're so insecure of my knowledge of hockey. But, I understand, everybody to their own, building their own self-confidence, even at the demise of their partner. Okay, anyway, all joking aside. So how the heck do you send Tanev out for nothing? I am so disappointed in the Calgary Flames and what they got right now this early for Tanev. Like, everyone was talking about a first rounder. They wanted a couple second rounders. Getting a second round draft pick from the Dallas Stars, who are most likely going to minimum at least be in a top 8 at the end of the playoffs, right? They're going to make the second round. They'll go from win their first round. And now they're sitting, and Zelstra, I know that you think that they waited too long, but they didn't wait too long. There's lots of time still to make a move. And the problem is they could easily have gotten something up right on. Go to my X, guys. Follow me at Revenev on X, and you will see that I actually am posting this stuff. I think that this is ridiculous. I feel for Flames fans right now. I know some of you Flame fans are like, what kind of hope do we have? Because you've been on a winning streak, you've been doing well, and then you get rid of for a draft pick that's going to be, what would that equal? Around a 25th overall pick at worst, probably at best. Like, oh man, 25. That's second round, so that's 50. Oh my gosh, that we're going to be 30, 40. That's a 56 or 58th pick. You have a 3% chance of actually having an NHL player with that one. Oh my goodness, I feel for you guys.
I think that Zelstra's right. They waited a little bit too long, and they could have tried because
for
now
what?
the market has pulled them because they could have got potentially a
market wasn't there. No one was giving them a first round already. They didn't wait too long.
Toronto would have given a first if they had one. They didn't have one. That was the problem.
But nobody was paying a first round pick for Tanev. That was the problem for a guy that at his age could
that. That's what was being reported. Is that they
no, it wasn't. That they were asking. They were asking. It wasn't reported that people were offering a first round.
Well, there was no report being asked. I don't understand.
Okay, you find me the reporter that actually said that.
Elliot Friedman talked about how they were asking originally for a first, and
okay,
it wasn't.
Pawel, listen to me.
Okay.
You're telling me. Okay, I feel like you don't actively listen here. You keep saying he says they're asking for a first. Asking for a first and people offering a first are two different things. Asking for a first doesn't do nothing. They got their second round. Asking has nothing to do with waiting too long. Nobody was paying it.
Tanner's still in Calgary.
No, he got traded to Dallas. He's already gone. I already told you that.
Is that news?
Okay. I just talked about it for like about 8 minutes, dude. He's already been traded to the Dallas Stars tonight.
Okay.
For a second round, a third condition. Oh my goodness. I did not realize. So yeah, actually,
I will admit I didn't realize that he was traded already to Dallas. Okay, that's on me. But they traded on 2020 and in 2026. Okay, that's my bad. I did not even see the report.
Isn't that crazy?
So, yeah.
Okay, now give me your take.
Thank you. Yes, you're right. I am sorry.
No, now that you know that, thoughts, Tanev, basically a second round, a player, and a conditional third is what I see.
Okay.
There might be one other.
That's on me.
Nothing better.
I didn't realize that he was traded. My feed.
Okay,
didn't
but give us your
update
take.
me.
Now that you know, would you have traded him for that with Dallas?
Well, they got another player in it, and they got a conditional 2026, so there is a little bit more to it. I mean, he's a grinder. I just don't know how much miles are left on that body because he really plays a hard game, and he's injured a lot. That's my only fear. However,
Okay.
I'm surprised Toronto didn't pay that because I think probably Toronto wanted to pay a second, but the challenge is probably Calgary wanted one of their younger core pieces like a Fraser Minton, right? Like he would have been a part, or maybe a Nick Robertson, to be thrown into the deal. So
Right.
I don't know if that would have been something to include, but
They gave up nothing. They gave up.
I still think they were waiting for a first. It didn't happen. I understand what you were saying.
but-
I think they took now whatever best deal offer was given left after teams kind of got scared or spooked. And he is technically at the end of the year a UFA. So really, we're going to want to re-sign him. So I don't know what that's going to look like.
I do want to bring this in. I know you talked about injury, but I want to just bring this note. Last year, he played 65 games. He had a part of a season injury. So he had only missed about 20 games last year, okay? Because a lot of people are actually talking about that and talking about how many games. And then the year before, he played 82 games. The year before, he missed about 20 games. So
was that still in Vancouver, or was that in Vancouver? Because I know when he played in Vancouver, he was injured quite often, and then he had one good season before being moved.
So in Calgary, he's got 56 games the first year because he was coming off an injury at the end of the year there. And then he had a full season. Then he had 65, and he's already at 56 games this year. So the guy's doing fine. He was injured in that series going into the Edmonton series in the playoffs there the other time. But essentially, he's got in his playoff years, he's still already got 17. He's got about 30 games already in playoffs. So Dallas, great pickup. These guys, I'm looking for a depth now. I'm looking for a depth forward for them to actually get maybe a fourth line guy that's going to.
They're going all in. They're going all in into playing, and they're going to try to potentially, go for the Stanley Cup. And they were my pick originally for the Stanley Cup final and winners this year. That's how good they are, right? And Tanev went to Calgary as UFA. Yeah, like he finished off his time with Vancouver, and then he headed over to Calgary. We'll see what happens. That's good bolster for Dallas. They're definitely going in. The Central is very, very. It's going to be very tight. It's going to be interesting because you've got Winnipeg up there. You've got Colorado, who Nathan McKinnon is filing on all cylinders. We'll see what happens there. Steve, you have a Sports Empire question. What do you got? Ask us away. You were here last week and we didn't hear you. Do I sound ill? I'm a little under the weather. Yes, Zilstra, I am. I am a little sick.
Sorry to hear that, man.
It's all good.
Yeah. That makes sense. Why you just didn't hear what I was saying about the deal.
So let's talk about.
Normally, you're sitting there telling me about the latest trade. Was it like 3 weeks ago? The Lindholm.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks, because there's been a lot of rumblings about Elias Pettersson and about him not wanting to stay in Vancouver. Now, apparently, there's been talks with the team, Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford coming to the table with his agent saying, hey, we want to offer you tentatively $12 million by 8-year deal. So $96 million. Pretty big coin, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like Pettersson's not even coming to the table. Your thoughts, because there's now rumblings that he may not even stay in Vancouver. And do you trade an asset like that who is an elite center? And are you looking at Boston potentially being aggressive here?
Wow. I don't know what Boston's going to give up to be able to even get him. They have got rid of so much over the years. So I don't think Boston has a lick of a chance just based on what they have in the storage. Yes, I can see it. Can I tell you why? Because I have a sneaky suspicion. Let's connect the dots. We have, who is the president over there and who is the GM?
President of hockey operations is Jim Rutherford, and the GM is Patrick Allvin.
And where did they come from? Which organization?
Pittsburgh Penguins. But I think Alvin was also in the Detroit organization.
Yeah, well, he was with Pittsburgh as their assistant GM for a long time. Rutherford brought him through. So he is a Pittsburgh guy, true and true. Who is going to be a UFA at the end of the season?
I don't know.
Jake Getzel.
Okay.
So look at Getzel. I just have this sneaky suspicion. He's got something in his back pocket. They're putting an offer out, and if not, you know how much they can bring in a haul for Pettersson. It's not what they ideally want to do, but if Pettersson plays hardball, they probably are going to look at their team and say, look what we're doing. Even like outside, the players on that team, what they're building, like them or hate them, Rutherford and Alvin, they are doing a fabulous job there. People doubted them. I doubted what I saw was going on. I couldn't understand. But these guys, they're moving stuff around. And Rutherford, I think, has really taught Patrick well on how to move stuff. He's done it. He did it with the Hurricanes in Carolina. He did it with Pittsburgh. Now, of course, he left Pittsburgh with nothing eventually. And then he headed over. But yeah, so true and true. It's been an interesting run. So I think that Getzel is in their back pocket. That's one of the things. And I wonder if they'd even make a push for him for this playoff. If there's a way they could give up something.
If they think they're competitive enough, they can go for it. However, the one caveat with Pettersson is to look at the fact that they did bring Lindholm in, who is a center. And they've got JT Miller signed up, who's playing some of the best hockey of his career. Now, I know he'll be 36, 37 when that big contract ends. But it's one of the reasons they signed him. And you saw that Bo Horvat wanted to kind of go out and wanted to get paid what he got paid on the island by Lou Lamoriello. So I look at it as they have Lindholm as a backup, potentially bring in a third line center if you need to, and then you have your down the middle punch. However, if they do end up signing Pettersson, he would be a great addition to that team, and I think he would really make an impact. And I'm wondering if behind the scenes, the Sedin brothers are having close conversations maybe with him. And I know they say they don't like to get involved, but they are advisors, and they're Swedish. Elias is Swedish. That connection, trust me, it doesn't take a lot to see the stretch of connections there. But we'll see what happens. Okay. We'll definitely be reporting on it. Right now, I'm saying it's 70-30. 70 he's staying, 30 that he's leaving. Because he did talk at the beginning of the season that he doesn't want to talk contract extension. Most players don't. However, and maybe it's a language barrier, you have not heard Elias Pettersson talk in depth about wanting to be a Vancouver Canucks for life. You haven't really had that conversation where you heard it with Nylander. I want to stay. I want to stay, Plus, fun thing, Evan, they already have an Elias Pettersson in their farm team for the Abbotsford Canucks. So really, you're just replacing one for the other for a cheaper version.
They only wish, with that. So, all right. Why don't we take a note over from the book? So we talked about Vancouver a little bit and what's going on over there. Let's move over. We talked a little bit earlier about maybe the Detroit Red Wings could face the New York Rangers in the playoffs. Why don't we talk about the New York Rangers? Of what potentially could be going on. And by the way, just for everyone's note, if you're listening tonight, on April 3rd, we have a former New York Ranger who's played almost, or I believe a little over 600 plus games for the New York Rangers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was a tough guy, played on the blue line. His name is Christopoulos. So Christopoulos is going to be on our show. Chris Christopoulos, he will be on the show on April 3rd. Now, unfortunately, Pawel's going to be coming in for a quick 10-15 minute take because he's going to be in Arizona checking out live the NHL game with the Arizona Coyotes and giving us some updates during that time. So, but let's go to the Rangers, the New York Rangers, and talk about what are some possibilities or different scenarios you could see them pushing this trade deadline. Do you see them trying to fill up on defense? Do you think that obviously in goal, they got Quick backing up Shesterkin? I doubt that they want any changes there. Do you see something on the blue line? Do you see something in the depth forward, a star? What do you think?
I think it's up front for the Rangers. And the big one is because they have Blake Wheeler out. indefinitely. I think he's done after that awkward injury that he had. A few weeks back. They're missing Philip Hedel. I don't know if he'll be back. I think he had surgery, so we'll see what happens there. I think they want to bolster up their front because you have good net front presence, both Shesterkin and Quick, who has turned time around and really been an elite backup to goalie and really stolen some games for them. But Shesterkin is back to his regular numbers. Like he's really solid. Your back end is pretty set. You've got Jacob Trouba, who can throw a big hit. You've got Adam Fox, reigning Norris winner, who can really make an impact. You have Ryan Lilgren, who I believe is probably one of the most underrated defensemen in the league. People don't really give him enough credit. The man, he plays like a Tanev-like style game. He will get bruised and battered, and he will stay on the ice with like one leg and play it out. And I really think up front is where they need a bit more help. Now, granted, right now my heart candidate for that team is Panarin. He's really turned the clock around, and I think ever since he shaved his head in the offseason, he's gotten rid of the voodoo, as he said, and so he's really making an impact. You've got Vincent Trocheck down the middle, who's been helping. Zibanejad has been solid and elite. I really think they still need to bolster up the wing. And again, I know Gensel's the name, but maybe they go after Gensel if they can, or they look for someone else potentially, right? And it doesn't look like they'll face off with the New Jersey Devils. So whoever they face off with, they're going to need depth scoring. And I think that's where they got to look. So that's how I see it. But your thoughts on the Rangers?
Yeah, it makes sense on the forward. If you think last year when they went out and got Tarasenko and Patrick Kane, right? They really wanted to do something. They didn't get guys that had
solid for Detroit, by the way. But yes.
Yes. Yeah. He's more than a point a game. So all those naysayers, it takes a while to come back from surgery like he actually had got. So people need to recognize that. Let's turn to a little bit in the Northwest now, the Northwest Pacific in the United States, up to the Seattle Kraken. What do you think is going to happen here? Are these guys going to be fighting for a playoff spot? Do you think some trading? So one of the players that I'm noticing that seems to be in a lot of talk around, like when I'm talking discussions, I'm not just talking insiders. I'm talking about some different chatter amongst around the team's personnel and stuff like that. And that is around the center, Alex Wenberg. So there is some interest right now. And one of the teams is the New York Rangers around Alex Wenberg for that center. So could that be that third line center possibly?
Yep. Yeah, he definitely would be a good depth addition. The one thing I'm hearing is Eberle extension. I know they really want to make that happen. He still may move if they can't get a deal done, but I think they like what he brings to the team. And I think that they're not going to do too much because they're in their second year. They or third year technically. They overachieved last year, playing very well, and this year they're kind of where I thought they would be. But I think you don't want to tinker too much with it, and I think you want to just let things be and see where next year takes you. Compete for a playoff spot if you can, right? But they're kind of middle of the pack. Let's see what we can do next year and bring up some of our young guys. So,
yeah.
Oh, and Silster says, I haven't brought up Gibson being traded. Was he traded? Oh, I don't even know.
No, I think you talk about Gibson and being traded quite often, especially when we've had Ray from New Jersey coming on and talking about different goalies. We've kind of, I'm absolutely shocked that actually, let's talk about Gibson for just a moment. In fact, let's head down to the Anaheim Ducks, because if you want to talk about some players, so Vetrano could be an option. So Vetrano's name has come up a few times around the Edmonton Oilers as a potential because he has one more year remaining on his contract at 3+. I don't know if it's 3.5 or 3.7. I can't remember exactly. As well as you got Carrick. And on top of that, you also have right down the middle, you got Adam Henrique, who has a very high price. So they'd have to eat salary, which means you got to add more. But this is what I was thinking. They know they don't want to keep that salary, that like as far as that player. If you can get something really good for him, but you can't, because he's overpriced, you can't expect to get more than one really good thing other than a good, say, a second round draft pick. and you might have to eat 25% to 35% of that contract in order to have a team pick him up. Very few teams are going to be wanting an Adam Henrique at this time at that price that can afford him. That's going to be one of the things. And then the other thing is Trevor Zegras. There's a lot of talk that could there be, but I think that'll be an off season, not a. Oh, there you go, Zill. You're talking about this summer. Yeah, exactly. Possibly at the draft. And I hope I am on the draft floor in Vegas with two guys in hockey talk when that gets called and we get some good trades. Maybe we'll be able to share some great trades coming up right off of the draft floor. So, but yeah, so it's going to be interesting who's going to, but I wonder, I'm hearing nothing about Gibson right now, but Gibson, you think he'd want to make one last run to have a chance for another Stanley Cup here?
He's still got quite a few more years left on that contract. So I think it was 4 years when we looked it up last. Like it's still a lot. So they would have to.
Well, they're going to have to eat. Yeah, probably $2 million.
So you mentioned Alex Hornberg just a little bit earlier. What if he would go to the Rangers? Think about that. They need some depth.
That's what I just said. That's what I just said. Yeah. I feel like this is a switch of last show when I lost and I came back in. And then Sarah's like, yeah, Pawel already was just asking that. Ha ha ha.
There you go. There you go. When it's the last time I'm on the game, clearly I'm off my game tonight. But yeah, there's definitely some interest for quite a few teams. I don't think Gibson gets traded this year, maybe in the offseason, but I can't see it. He's gonna kind of push through, see where it's like. It's also saying Oilers are gonna grab Gibson. Ha ha ha. I'm actually looking more at UC Saros and Jacob Markstrom because I feel like those two goalies potentially could move. I'm not saying it's 100% or really high, but 50% that there's a chance they could move for the right price. And really, you look at Askarov for Nashville. He's lighting it up in the AHL. If you bring him up, he could pursue or be brought up and make an impact, as well as, of course, Calgary has been 3 goalies, as you know. So we'll see what happens. The options there aren't that much. Now, I know that there were some rumblings about Phil Kessel potentially joining Vancouver. We talked about that. He skated with the Abbotsford Canucks, would come up and give him a chance to play, be that extra body. He did come off a Stanley Cup win again. He can play. He's really benefited under Tocchet. He played with him in Pittsburgh. We'll see what happens. Zilster's talking about, you think Carolina will grab their Lakins? Carolina needs scoring in the playoffs. Kochetkov has been solid. I don't know if Anderson's going to come back in time for the playoffs, if he's completely healthy. But I got to be honest, the scoring always dries up for Carolina in the playoffs, and that's where I think they need to go. That's why they went after Pacioretty a few years back, right? Like they need scoring, and unless Aho and Teravainen are going, that team struggles to score in the playoffs, right? You saw that last year versus Florida. Who's going to score the big goals? That's what Carolina needs. But for Anaheim, keep an eye out for Sam Carrick. I know there's been rumblings about Edmonton picking him up if there's a big trade to be made. And Anaheim, of course, rebuilding, really need to make some more changes. And we'll see what happens in the offseason. But I could definitely see Montreal making a push for Trevor Zegras.
Okay, so let me give you the report. I was looking for a report on the player for Calgary that they picked up. So the player they picked up is RTM, and his name is Krushnikov, like as in it's a G, sorry. So it's Grushnikov, it sounds like. So he is 20 years old. He is a defensive defenseman, essentially. It talks about how he kind of is a glue to puck attackers. He denies them a lot of passes. He engages well. So it sounds like he'll be very much a defensive guy, uses his body well to kind of skate, especially when it's along the boards. But he is only still 6 feet and 195 pounds and 20 years old, has not played in the NHL. And he's already in his second. He's in it. He ripened in the OHL with the Hamilton Bulldogs in junior hockey. And now he's got a year and a half there. So now he's going to be assigned to the Calgary Wranglers, it looks like. So this is definitely just a player that's thrown in. Maybe they develop, maybe they don't. There's nothing on his growth curve that's going to tell us that this is going to be a fabulous player. So again, I'm going to stick with my original. I think that they blew this. I think that there was a lot more for them out there that they could have got, including now, I don't know what the rumors are up north in between the north and the south with Calgary and Edmonton, but I'm telling you, Edmonton had a lot more to offer for promising prospect and a draft pick than what already came in. And do they really think they're going on a cup run? I don't know, Pawel. Let's move over to the Edmonton Oilers. Do you actually think that, like I started the season, seeing them come out of the All-Star break and not even playing 500 hockey, I do not see the Oilers being able to go far in the playoffs unless they make one more move with an Ekholm, another Matthias Ekholm kind of move, that they need to shore up a top 4 defenseman, someone to either move CC down and take Darnay and make him 7, and then maybe bring Broberg in when he's healing, and maybe trade out Kulak for some cap, and or leave everything in place, but you move out CC and you bring in a new guy. But he's got to be a top 4D, right-hand D. And without that, I cannot. They need to solidify that back end a little bit more, and they need a bit more toughness, like Ekholm with smarts.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think the biggest factor for Edmonton, beyond if Kenny Holland wants to stand pat and not change anything, is playing a more disciplined 60-minute game. I think what I've seen from the Oilers this season is that they have a hard time playing 60 full minutes. They often start from behind. Teams are scoring first against them, even though they're able to come back because you have the juggernauts of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. However, if you take too many penalties, and you saw this last year, people saw this versus Vegas, they took too many reckless penalties. More recently, there was a game where I believe they got called nonstop, and Oilers fans made a kerfuffle about the fact that they were getting penalized more than the other team. Well, don't take penalties. Play a smart, clean hockey game. You know what I mean? You know what the refs are calling. You know what it is. You can't do that. And when you do that and your power play has really struggled since the All-Star break, you're going to feel it. Doesn't matter who's on your back end. Doesn't matter if you have, Hellebuck back there, Shesterkin, whatever, Saros. You're going to struggle. So really, if they play a more clean 60-minute game, they can make a deep impact with both Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl being healthy. That being said, they should bolster their back end because I think D's strong defensemen win playoff series. Yeah. And if you have that, don't worry about the scoring.
So right now you think that they need to do what they can to not just have a guy to replace the bottom line, but someone in the top 4 right D.
Face off, they've been solid. Of course, you can always, bolster that end, the bottom 6, but really, you need to play a disciplined 60-minute game. That's what I see it as. And if you can't do that, then you're going to lose in the first, second, third round.
Yeah, and for me, I think if Edmonton can't get a top 4 right-hand D, and I'm not talking Walker or Carrier. I'm sorry, folks. I am not with people that are talking about those 2 players as being a replacement for CC. I don't see that as much of an upgrade, especially when you got to move players out that affect it. So what's Zilser saying?
So, Calgary has to build a new team area opening. When's that happening anyway? Well, it started to happen, and the doors are supposed to open for 2026, 2027 is my understanding.
Yeah, it begins next year. That's the scheduled date, so it will be being built. The schedule is to get the whole plans and everything finalized in 24, and like you said, the 26 and or 27. So it's a 26-27 season or the 27-28, but all that will, because they got to get the designs completed and stuff. It's supposed to the discussion should be between 18 and 18.4 for the seating capacity. It's supposed to be around $800 million for the event center in the district is what the plan is, Zil.
That being said, I will say for Edmonton, like for any team in the West right now, really this year, if you believe you can win the Stanley Cup and you believe in your team because you make the playoffs, because then it's 16 teams left, you go for it, Evan. You go for it. Toronto, same thing. Winnipeg, same thing. Vancouver, same thing. Whatever you believe in, right? What I hope for this year is that all 4 Canadian teams that make it, more so in the West and the East, is that they don't face each other in the first round. I'd like to see some of those teams advance to the second round so we can potentially see a Western or Eastern Conference, more so Western Conference final with a Canadian team in it. Whether it is Winnipeg, whether it is Vancouver, whether it is Edmonton. Now, I do want to bring up one other thing. I'll let you bring up the next thing because I know you said you had a rant, right?
No, I kind of ranted earlier, so I'm good. I actually want to cover something on my Revs top 15 tonight, though.
Okay, okay, so Revs Top 15 is brought to you by JR Web Designs for all your website designs, anything you want. He does great work. Give him a follow. He would appreciate your business.
So I just want to touch base on my Revs Top 15. I am astounded at how fast people change on what they put their rankings at. For example, I put in Cole Iserman as my number 2 at the beginning of the season. And a lot of people had him, even talking about number 1. He has fallen back to between 3 and 5 on some different rankings. And some have even put him at 7. All because I believe because he plays in the USHL with the United States Development Hockey Program. And that's for example, where Jack Hughes came out of. And a lot of times the way the team works, it gets confusing for people because they actually think they're not actually a part of a regular league because there's 2 different teams that actually play. So he doesn't get the high number of games. He'll get only around 40 games. It's like playing in the NCAA, but he plays with the older team. There's a younger team and an older team. So one of the things that is astounding to me is this guy can score goals. He can do slappers. You look at the NHL players from a distance out the hash marks. When they put the puck on, he is dead accurate for a guy that is a centerman. He is an incredible player with a hard shot. I'm telling you right now, I do not see me moving off him at number 2. Now, again, he may not go number 2 in the mock draft, but I'm telling you, he will be the number 2 player in his lifetime out of all the players selected this year, and he will be a goal scorer in the NHL. So, guys, keep your eye on Cole Iserman. Go check out some clips. Go follow his stats. Check it out. Go on X. Sometimes I'll do some reposts from Cam Robinson, who does a lot of following for prospects, and you'll be able to see lots going on. And I'd like to be mentioned to Demidov, who has done incredible over in the Russian Hockey League. So he's playing on the minor league team. So he's playing in the junior right now. And the guy is doing fabulous. He's moved into a number 2 overall spot for a lot of rankings. I still don't see him being in that spot. I think that he's going to probably fall to maybe even 4 for me when the end of the season comes. And just for a heads up, I will put out and actually post it on our site over at 2guysinhockeytalk.com, guys. You can go over there and check out my Revs Top 15. So by the end of March, I am going to put in my actual posting for my end of season. I ain't waiting till the end of April and then putting it out there early May. I'm going to give it to you. But I'm telling you, Demidov is not as good as some of you guys think, where he's going to go number 2 and can even challenge Macklin Celebrini for that spot. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. Anyway, that's it for my Revs Top 15.
All right, thank you for that. So I wanted to follow up and connect 3 teams together quickly in a way, and I'll get your thoughts on it. It's nothing like, it's not a spoof or like a gotcha question. I just wanted to bring some stuff up. So first off, let's look at the Washington Capitals. They're kind of middle of the pack as well, fighting for a playoff spot. Consider someone like a Nick Dowd, who's a 3rd-line center, is at a reasonable contract, I believe, under $3 million, could potentially play. Look for him potentially to be moved, as well as you're talking about a defenseman that Edmonton could use amongst a few other teams. Look no other than Joel Edmondson. He's got a bigger contract, played in Montreal, really big, tough, physical guy, right-handed D. He could potentially be on the trade block. Keep an eye out for him. Don't know what's going to happen there with Washington because they're kind of tinkering with a playoff spot, but we'll see what happens. They have a big road trip coming up. Will they, won't they? What's going to happen? So there's definitely going to be some rumblings out of out of Washington. Now I want to get into the press conference that Gary Bettman had with Winnipeg. So he went over there.
Can you be just because you hit on the topic here and you were talking about that offer? I just want to counter that. I can't see the Oilers going after Joel Edmondson. The guy's too slow. He's a big guy, but I think he's too slow for the game. I think it passed by, and that's not going to, in my opinion. I know he's been rumored and there's a lot of talk. Actually, the guy that I think they look out for is Fabro. So just consider Fabro will be a RFA at season's end, and he plays about 16 minutes
Detroit, or
he's in Nashville.
Nashville. Oh, Fabro. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I was thinking of someone else. The other thing is Gary Bettman was in Winnipeg talking about the lack of corporate sponsorship and seats, butts and seats, as we talk about. You know, he talked about that he's not moving the franchise. He's confident in them. They're going to make it work. I got to be honest. I wasn't a fan of this. You could have done this privately. The fact that it got out publicly and he had to make a public media statement, it doesn't bode well. I know it's not New York. I know it's not Boston. I know it's not Toronto. I know it's not Detroit. But the fact that you're showing up to one of the smaller arenas and having these speeches doesn't bode well, especially everything that we've heard this year with expansion, with what's going on in Arizona. So I think the commissioner, I get what he's doing, but he could have done it behind closed doors, because you've got a team in Arizona who doesn't even have an arena yet, and yet we were supposed to get some clarity about it as of January. We're coming up on March here, Evan. I don't know what's going on. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse already, because we know what that's going on. But let's talk about the fact that beyond last night, where Arizona finally beat the Montreal Canadiens, they were on a 12-game losing streak. What's happening? They were middle of the pack as well, playing well. You know, Andre Tourney was getting them to be the best version of themselves. You know, they were clicking. What happens with Arizona? Do they sell some of their players? Do you see a Nick Bukestad potentially being moved again and then returning? You know, a Jason Zucker potentially. There's a few players there that potentially could move. Lawson Krause, he's a big, heavy forward, can play top 9 minutes, physical guy. You know, he'll bang in a goal here and there. What does that look like? Alex Kerfoot, who played for Toronto for a very long time, could be a very serviceable third-line center. Easy contract money, right? Think about that. Any thoughts on Arizona and Winnipeg?
So right now with Arizona, I think they're selling off all their unrestricted free agents. That's what I think is going to happen. Anyone who's a UFA, I was just going to quickly go on and see if I could actually find something so we could actually take a quick look. I'm just going to go to Cap Friendly right now to kind of be able to see as we're talking here, guys.
One sneaky player that I was told about by an insider is keep an eye out for Sean Durzi, a cheap right-handed defenseman who came over from LA, and he can make a big impact. He's playing top line minutes on the power play. Yeah. Keep an eye on to see if he gets traded. Hey, Key, it's great to see you. He is part of our Sports Empire team. She does all things sports, NBA, NHL, WWE, NFL, MLB, whatever you need. She's got great 2 shows every week. Go check them out.
Okay, so let's just cover the UFAs that are there. I do not see them getting rid of Sean Durzi. In fact, Elliot Friedman just talked last night about it on one of the shows, and he just doesn't see Sean Durzi going. They like him. So Jason Zucker, you mentioned him already. The other player, Liam O'Brien, who won't matter much. Matt Dumba, that's a high the chance on a right D. Josh Brown, that's another one that you could be looking at. Troy Stetcher as well, and Travis Dermont. Now, Travis has moved around in the past, and then, of course, they have a whole bunch of people that they – so it's interesting, right now, because they ate salary of Brian Little and Travis Boyd and Jacob Voracek. They literally have, 8, 13, 14 – they got $15 million in LTIR. $15 million on LTIR. That is absolutely crazy. So those are the players – they got defensemen. So anyone looking for depth defensemen, that's what I see actually moving. But it sounds like they're not looking at moving Durzi. They like him for what is going forward, according to that was just Elliot's information. It sounded like so. I will trust Elliot most of the time.
Yeah,
but he's no Pawel the cat, I tell you. But he ain't no Pawel the cat.
He knows nothing about Chris Tanev going for a first.
All right.
All right, so we're wrapping up here. Any final thoughts, Evan, before we wrap up here?
Yeah, no, I just like to give a quick mention right now to a team that very few people are talking about. And I came home today. As I got home and I was getting set up for our podcast here tonight, I had this thought in my head. I thought Kucherov is having the best season of his life. This guy is 40 points above the next person. So it tells you that you just kind of got a superstar, like maybe McDavid, how he goes supernova ahead of everyone else. But could they be a dark horse? Tampa Bay Lightning for the playoffs. It's like they've gone quiet to everybody. They still have Hedman. They still have Vasilevsky. They have
they have
man.
One of their defensemen out. Their young guy.
Sergachev.
Sergachev. Yeah, he's injured after that awkward knee injury.
Yeah, absolutely with it, right? So, it makes me wonder, and this is just my final thought. It makes me wonder: is it possible that they could be a dark horse in the playoffs? No one's taking them serious enough, and they should be. So I would say look out for them in the playoff run. If they make the playoffs, and it is looking like they're hanging in there, I think that there is a very good chance they can get around the first round. What if they play the Toronto Maple Leafs? They won't, but what if they did? I mean, that would be another ring-a-ding-dong dandy.
Yeah. And the Atlantic has always been stacked. They have a lot of good teams there, and so whoever comes out of it, fans lose because you've got Boston, you've got Florida, you've got Tampa, you've got Toronto, and now you've got the Detroit Red Wings meddling. So there's definitely some competition there, and we'll see what happens. Last thoughts? I think it's been a ring-a-ding-dandy show, as you like to say, but no, it's been an exciting week of hockey. I know we got the trade deadline next week. We've got a lot more shows coming up for you every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We are here. We appreciate you tuning in and taking the evening to hang out with us. We are on Facebook. We are on YouTube. Give us a follow. Give us a like. We appreciate it. We always love hearing from you guys, good or bad. We love hearing all your insights. We love having conversations off air with you. It's always been fun. I love it when Evan tells me I'm wrong because it makes me want to be better. But I know I'll probably be out after the first round, right? And thank you, Zostra. We'll get better. I think it's just a little bit of a stuffed nose. And Boston will also apparently, according to her, be out in the first round. I'm looking forward, actually, in less than 2 months to doing playoff predictions. I remember doing them in our first season and how fun it was printing it out and having everything kind of picked out and where we were going to go. We hope to bring you back that and have some more of you engage and tell us what your predictions are for the playoffs, because it's going to be fun. And of course, what's going to be happening in the off season.
So, guys, if you have any questions, anything specific you want us to talk about, topics, make sure you email us at twoguyshockeytalk@gmail.com. Send it to us. We'll be sure to look at putting it on the show. We always like anybody in the chat box. Thanks so much for all the chat and the chatter and coming along. Make sure that you drive safe out there, Zill, while you're traveling through and maybe listening on the radio to the Tri-City Americans. Who knows? By the way, it wasn't Trinity Americans. I'm sure that was a misspelling error or that was a joke. I didn't know what you meant. Probably it's the silly texting thing. But that's the Tri-City Americans that she's referring to, I believe. Unless I'm totally wrong and it's a new team in a new city. I don't know. Never know, man. So anyway, Pawel, it's been a great one. Thanks so much. Been good hanging out for one more week.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. We love hearing from you. All the best. You guys have yourself a great night. And as always, Evan,
in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die, for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.